Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Update: my friends catfished me in the worst way possible. After that, naval officer didn't want to live with enlisted, gets fired. And after that, am I the jerk for pulling my daughter from a field trip because her teacher made her stay with a kid she doesn't like? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets catfished. You mean like you did when we first started talking? Still can't believe you used a picture of Brad Pitt. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Update: my friends catfished me in the worst way possible. Recently, my friends and I went to a restaurant for dinner, where I noticed that there was a cute waiter that was serving us. I told my friends, not thinking much of it. Throughout the whole dinner, they proceeded to embarrass me about it, sometimes even around the waiter, even asking if I could take a selfie with him. At the end of the dinner, while waiting for a friend to use the restroom, I noticed a friend of mine talking to the waiter, one-on-one. I panicked, worried that they'd embarrass me again, but worse. I left. The bill was already paid for, and I waited outside for them. They all came out smiling and laughing, saying they told the waiter that I thought he was cute and they got his number. I felt beyond embarrassed now. They put his number in my phone, and I said, "Oh well," and sent him a text. I wasn't expecting much to come out of this, so I was shocked to see him reply. We continued to talk throughout the night, even after my friends and I parted ways. So the next morning, I was happy. The waiter and I were having a good conversation the same morning. Later at lunch, my friend confessed that it wasn't the waiter that I was texting, it was my friend. My friend group was in on it and even made a group chat to laugh at me behind my back, leaking the messages and such. I was so mortified. They told me in front of most of our friend group, as I went to dinner with only 4 of them. I angrily left, sending a message to our Discord server saying, "Forget you guys," and went off on them. They thought I was upset at being catfished, and while I am somewhat upset, I was mainly upset for being turned into a joke and laughed at behind my back by people who I thought were my friends. 2 of them were my best friends. Some of them have said that I'm overreacting, and some say that I'm making it a bigger problem than it needs to be. My family says I should drop them, but I don't know what to do. Some people say I'm right for being upset and I'm not overreacting. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Those people are not your friends. Drop them like a bad habit and move on. Friends don't make fun of you or go out of their way to make you feel uncomfortable. You deserve better friends. I'm sorry that they were so awful to you. Jokes are only funny if everybody's laughing. Well, what do you think? Is OP overreacting or not? Please let us know. When something legit hurts you, it's not a joke. I'd drop those people ASAP. Naval officer didn't want to live with enlisted, gets fired. So this happened about 1.5 years ago, but I recently heard the news on how far my revenge went. I was a Navy enlisted service member and I was stationed in Yokosuka, Japan for a few years before I got transferred back stateside. I worked in the main hospital that cared for service members and their beneficiaries. It's a small hospital, so everyone knows everyone. Shortly after I left, I caught wind of a new physician officer working in the radiology department. My friends would say he's horrible to work with, but that's nothing new. However, someone saw him print a letter and he left it on his desk and took a picture of it and sent it to me. He's requesting to move from enlisted housing to officer. Edit: found out it's not a private letter. He did actually send it to housing, and most of housing is ran by enlisted members. For context, military housing is available for those who are married, have a family, or are qualified based on their rank and depending on the military base itself. Typically, officer housing is much nicer than the enlisted. In Yokosuka, housing is basically all the same all around because it's overseas, but most of the housing are apartments, and each apartment complex is called a tower. Example, Fuji Tower. There are 9 towers, and 2 are for officers since enlisted members outnumber officers by a lot. Now, one thing about the military, stuff happens. When getting stationed, it is the active duty member's responsibility to either apply for housing on or off base before arriving, depending on what's allowed. If there is limited space and you don't apply for housing on time, then you get put wherever there is space. So our new officer got placed in an enlisted tower. Mind you, enlisted members have families of their own, and other officers have been placed in enlisted housing before without an issue. Here are some quotes in his letter. And yes, this guy has a PhD. I have many valid objections to living in a building of almost all enlisted, and even many lower enlisted being an officer. There's a lot of crime, violent actions, and drinking that happens in enlisted housing. There are also assaults and other creeps. I have a good-looking family, a wife and 2 daughters. They are prime targets to be victims for these enlisted deviant activities. My family should be safe in housing that is with officers. Officers are much more respectable, and these types of deviant activities are incredibly rare compared to the deviant activities of enlisted being commonplace. Other officer families will not want to visit us because our family lives on enlisted housing. My children need to make friends with other officer children. My wife needs to make friends with other officers' wives. I need to make friends with other officers. Forcing an officer to live in a large apartment building with almost all enlisted is unethical. You get the idea. So this guy basically looks down on all enlisted service members, assuming every single one of us are some sort of criminals. The kicker? He was an enlisted Army member before going to officer school. In civilian terms, think of a manager that discriminates and calls all of his subordinates criminals, violent, etc. based on your job position. Forgetting that some have a family and, maybe aren't any of those things. And he not only has the authority to ruin your work life, he can ruin your personal life. Deny days off, make you stay late, write you up if he doesn't like you, and not letting you get promoted. Safe to say, everyone was upset, and I have nothing to lose. I was separating soon and figured I'd have some fun before I got out. I created a burner Facebook account and posted the letter and the officer's picture on a popular military enlisted group page. Within 2 days, it spread like wildfire. But I wasn't done yet. The military has something called challenge coins. Think of trading cards, but custom coins that come in many shapes and sizes. I designed one with his face and a big gesture in the back. On top of that, I designed stickers to show how proud us deviants are. Other coin designs came from other people as well, but so far I think mine was more popular. I sold over 70 coins to the initial person who originally sent me the picture at a huge discounted price so that she can sell them for a profit herself. So the officer's face is everywhere because most people will keep their coins displayed on their desk. No matter where the officer went at work, he would see his face on someone's desk, and since it didn't have his name on the coin, can't officially say it's him. I sold more stateside and even got some sent to Europe. I made about $3,000 overall, which was nice. The story got the officer sent up to captain's mast, which is like Navy court. He tried to say his wife was the one that wrote the letter, but no one is buying it because her writing style is way worse. She even tried to take the fall, but no one believed her. They both ended up deleting all social media. Due to this, he got served 3 UCMJ articles, which basically are his offenses. But there's more. When you're in the military, you have a deadline on how long you can be a certain rank. If you don't pick up, then you're kicked out. And because he's new and got served UCMJ articles, he won't be up for promotion and therefore was involuntarily separated. Also, the officer program he went through pays for his PhD. When the military pays for your PhD, you have to serve 10 years to pay them back. If you don't complete 10 years, you have to pay the military back with money instead of time. So he lost his job, and now he has to pay back the military for his PhD. And since it takes a while for the paperwork to have him and his family sent back stateside, you can bet he socially suffered because no one worked with him. Am I the jerk for pulling my daughter from a field trip because her teacher made her stay with a kid she doesn't like? My daughter, Bryn, who's 9, is going on a trip to a nearby water park with her class next week. She loves water and has been talking about it for months, so I was a bit thrown off when she came home crying a few days ago and told me she didn't want to go. I asked her why, and she wouldn't tell me because she thought that I'd think she's a bad person. When I finally coaxed it out of her, she said that her teacher, Miss N, has forced her to be the buddy of her classmate, Ben, for the entirety of the trip. She was to ride the bus with Ben to and from the trip, eat lunch with him, and go on all the rides with him instead of spending time with her friends. She then said nobody likes Ben because he whines whenever they have to do work and picks his nose and wipes boogers everywhere. I was horrified, not only because Miss N had made Bryn do such a thing, but also because she had made her believe she was a bad person for not wanting to. Unfortunately, this wasn't my first experience with Miss N, as she frequently used my soft-spoken, intelligent older daughter as a behavior buffer for the naughty kids until I threatened to report her to the superintendent. It's clear to me that Miss N is still too comfortable with enforcing archaic roles on her kids and forcing the girls to do unpaid emotional labor for the sake of the boys. I immediately sent Miss N an email condemning her actions. She sent me back an email with a bunch of BS that basically ended with, "If Bryn goes on the trip, she has to be Ben's buddy." Fine. I informed her Bryn would not be attending then. I immediately booked VIP tickets the same day her class was going so she could still go to the park and see her friends. What happened next, I wasn't expecting. Bryn is quite popular, so I've gotten to know a lot of the moms in her class. When I let them know what Miss N did, some of them were so horrified that they also pulled their kids out of the trip. In total, 8 kids out of a class of 20 are either not going or going with us. Today I got an email from Miss N saying that because almost half of the class isn't going, they either have to raise the cost for the other students or not go at all. She practically begged me to let Bryn go and tell all the other parents to let their kids go, promising she wouldn't make Bryn do anything she didn't want to. I told her she should have thought about that before she tried to make my daughter do her job. My husband said I was being a bit petty and that Miss N clearly feels bad about what she did and I should just let Bryn go as I've already gotten my way. He asked me if I really wanted to deprive kids of what they've been waiting for all year. The thing is, if this wasn't Miss N's first offense, I probably would have agreed. But she has a pattern of this type of behavior, and hopefully this will put a stop to it. Plus, if she has to explain this to her superiors, I have receipts. Is my husband right, or am I justified? Update. Bryn was the only student assigned a buddy. The rest of the students were free to do what they wanted. Am I alone in suspecting that the teacher isn't so much feeling bad about what she did, but faintly terrified of either having to explain to her superiors why the trip is suddenly in jeopardy, or the backlash from other parents when it comes out why the trip that she organized has fallen apart? Not to mention that if you've booked VIP tickets, I'm going to guess that if you did cancel your plans to suit her, you'd end up paying twice over, once for the school tickets and again for the VIP tickets you've already bought. Not the jerk. I'd stick with a simple, "Sorry, I've already committed to and paid for my own arrangements for that date now." Bryn was the only student assigned a buddy. The rest of the students were free to do what they wanted. I mean, just this is the only reason you need to not be the jerk. I can't believe anyone would think that this is in any way acceptable. Teacher is a piece of work. Not the jerk. Stand your ground. Do not let her be used by the teacher. ETA. I would still write to the superintendent and anyone else who might be able to prevent other kids from being used this way. My husband lets our kids run wild when his parents visit, and I've had enough. We live 3 blocks away from my parents, and they see our kids almost every day. My husband's parents live a couple of states away and only see the kids a few times a year. It's easy when we go see them, since we only visit when the kids are out of school. But when they come see us, it's at random intervals throughout the year. Not a problem, really. They're excellent grandparents, with one small exception. They think our rules go out the window when they visit. It's mean that we don't make the kids their favorite food every day. Why can't the kids watch TV with them before they do their chores and homework? Why do the kids have to be in bed so early? It drives me crazy that I'm the bad guy because my husband won't put his foot down, so I have to do it. They came last week. On Monday, as soon as dinner was over, they wanted the kids to pay attention to them. They wanted to take the kids to see Avatar on a school night. My husband allowed it. Last straw. I told him that he knew that throwing the kids off their schedule did me over, so I gave him the choice of either enforcing our rules or I would. He said he would take care of it. Second night, there was a hockey game on. He wanted to watch it with our son who loves hockey. I reminded my husband that our son had chores to do and homework. He said it was just a hockey game. I told the kids to get their stuff. I took them, their clothes, and their homework to my parents' house. My mom and dad will watch them and then take them to school in the morning. I went back home and they were waiting for me. I'm being controlling by denying them time with the grandkids. I'm not the only person allowed to make decisions regarding the kids. They came all this way to see them, and I'm being a jerk by keeping them on a schedule. Fine. They're visiting for a couple of weeks. Wednesday, after I picked up the kids from school and dropped them off at home with my in-laws, then I went out for the first time in ages. I told my husband I would be out late and didn't want to wake anyone, so I would be at my parents' house. Did the same thing Thursday through today. My husband has been calling and texting and coming over to tell me that I need to come home because the house is a disaster because his parents won't do anything. They're on vacation, and they're there to see the kids, not to clean up. The kids are having a fun time with no rules, and he has been contacted by the school because no homework was turned in on Thursday or Friday. I didn't even answer those texts. I said I would be back after his parents left or he enforced the rules. He said I was taking it too far and that it was affecting his work. Honestly, tough crap. Edit. My son just texted me about his gym clothes for today. I guess he never put them on the hamper and they didn't get washed. Now I'm wondering what else my husband didn't get done. Edit 2. Kids are 9 and 11. In-laws visit 4 or 5 times a year for at least a week. Not the jerk, and I seriously applaud you. So many women take this kind of crap and never have the guts to stand up for themselves. Playing nice sucks. Husband and parents will most likely call you difficult. They're upset the house is a mess? They can clean it themselves. You're not the maid, and you were not put on this earth to ensure everyone has a lovely time but you. You are the one who has to take care of the aftermath. If your husband and his parents can't understand that kids need routines and boundaries, you're in for a heck of a ride. Hopefully you've made it well known that you won't stand for that type of crap. OP. The kids have chores, but they aren't doing them, and they're spending a lot of money on delivery since I'm not there to cook and getting the kids to prep. I'm wondering how much food I'm going to have to toss when I get home. I feel you. You're going to have to pick up the pieces after all of this. They might not learn their lesson, and you still have extra work to do. There's 3 adults. Can't one of them put together a meal? They're just being lazy and expecting you to do everything for them. You are not the hired help. They should treat you as such. I'd be fuming. Not the jerk. He wants to let his parents have their way in your house. That is not okay. You guys probably have a good reason for the way you handle things. If he can't understand that, then just stay with your folks whenever his visit. Although I do wonder what you mean by they are excellent grandparents. They sound like entitled jerk boomers, but must be younger. OP. They honestly love the kids and provide them with some awesome experiences and gifts that are out of our budget right now. They're putting money into their education funds and a fund to help them get started in life afterwards. They do a lot for us. I just hate that they throw off our schedules when they visit. Fine, they are okay grandparents, but they sound like bad parents and insufferable in-laws. I would disagree with the okay grandparents part. They're throwing the kids off their schedule, actively saying, don't do homework or chores, spend time with us instead. That is not being a good grandparent. You telling your husband, honestly tough crap, is right, not the jerk. Personally, I relax the rules around stuff like snacks and TV when grandparents are here, but I have the last word and I would be furious to be overruled. Shrugging off the homework is unacceptable. Don't go home. Let your husband learn how to be a parent. You're the jerk. Parents who keep their kids on strict schedules all the time are unnecessarily cruel. Like, okay, having structure and all that is fine, but when you won't let your kids just enjoy some time with their grandparents a few times a year, you seriously sound like a stickler. Don't be surprised when hubby leaves you for a woman who knows how to have fun. When I met my husband, he was still married to his ex at the time, who, just like you, never wanted to have any fun and took everything way too seriously. She always tried to boss him and their son around. The more he told me about it at work, he was my boss at the time, the more I reassured him that he deserved so much better than that, because he did. Well, now he has me, and I would never treat him the way she did. When his parents come over, I made sure to be a good host, and we let our son stay up late because before we know it, his grandparents will be in heaven. Maybe talk to your doctor about chill pills or something. Edit. I've been called much worse names than homewrecker, so save your breath. The reason wealthy older men are leaving their wives for younger women like myself is not just because they simply find us attractive, but more importantly, it's because of how we make them feel, respected and appreciated, as opposed to their longtime wives who do nothing but nag and disrespect them. If these older men just thought we were hot, then sure they'd cheat with us. But putting a $10,000 ring on my finger was the result of how I treated him, like the king that he is. Something his ex-wife forgot how to do over the years. The lady of the house insists. About 30 or so years ago, I dropped out of high school. My first job was as a truck jockey for a bloke who owned his own removal truck and had a delivery contract with a local chain of furniture stores. The work was hard and days were usually pretty long. I have an old payslip somewhere for an 84-hour week, but I was young, fit, and healthy, and the work saved me from needing a gym membership. Plus, the cash was really good for a 16-year-old. One long, reasonably warm Saturday, we're heading to our last delivery before going home. It was close to 6 p.m., and we'd still have a 45 to 60-minute drive home after, so the boss was in no mood for messing around. The delivery was in Melbourne's wealthiest suburb, lots of big houses and old money. Anyway, we rock up at this place, and the boss heaves a sigh of relief. Massive double-entry doors at the front. We were delivering a 3-seater sofa bed. Things were heavy, with the metal fold-out bed inside, so anything that made the delivery that little bit easier was seen as a positive. As usual, the boss hops into the back of the truck and starts unwrapping the load to get it onto the tailgate, while I go knock on the door, clipboard in hand. I ring the bell, old-fashioned turn the brass handle thing, and a butler opens the door. I see just over his shoulder a massive entry hall with a big, wide staircase leading up to the second story. Awesome. Him. Yes? Me. Good day. We're here to deliver a sofa bed for, I check the clipboard, Miss Rich Lady. Him, gesturing around to the right side of the house. Delivery entrance is around the side. Me. Oh, okay. I trot around to the side door, thinking it would be a straight-up delivery into a room near that door. I wait, and he eventually opens the door. Per our SOP, I ask him to show me where the furniture is going, so I could map the route for the boss. He gestures to, I'm genuinely not kidding, a spiral staircase. Him. Up those stairs. Me. Up those stairs? Him. Yes. Me. But I noticed there's a lot more room at the front door, plus the bigger staircase there. Can we deliver via that route instead? Him. The lady of the house wishes for it to be delivered via the rear staircase. Me. Really? There's no way we're getting that sofa bed up there without hurting ourselves, or the furniture, or the house. Why can't we deliver via the front? Him. The lady of the house simply will not permit it. Me. Okay. I'll go let my boss know. By the time I get back to the truck, the boss has the sofa sitting on the tailgate, ready for us to carry it in. Boss. Ready? Me. Not quite. You're not gonna believe it, but they want us to deliver via a side entrance and up a spiral staircase. Him. The heck they do? Me. Yep. Old maid in the suit and tie said so. How many times did you ask him? Me, unsure why. A couple. Wasn't sure I heard him right the first time, but he said the customer won't allow it. Nah, BS. Wait here. The boss strides up to the front door and rings the bell, perhaps a little aggressively. Butler opens it, words are exchanged. The boss gets pretty heated and demands to see the customer, Mrs. Rich Lady. Mrs. Rich Lady. What's all this nonsense? Boss. Your fella here said we can't deliver through these doors and up that staircase behind you. The other way is too narrow. We'll bust our backs trying to get it up there. That's not my concern. My concern is for the furniture to be delivered via the side entrance. Boss. Nah, we're not doing that. Just let us go this way and we'll be out of your hair in no time. I insist that you deliver the furniture in accordance with the terms of the contract. Cue malicious compliance. The boss straightens up, squares his shoulders. Okay, sure, no worries. We'll get it done, as you said, in accordance with the delivery contract. He walks back to me, massive grin on his face, and tells me to grab the highlighter, fluorescent marker, from the cab. I go grab it and hand it to him. He highlights something on the delivery docket on the clipboard, tosses it onto the sofa, and gestures at me to grab my end. I'm wondering what's about to go down, but I know my boss well enough to know we aren't about to carry this thing through a side door and up a spiral staircase. As we get near the front doors, the boss tells me we're putting the sofa bed down. He grabs the clipboard and politely asks Rich Lady to sign for delivery. Rich Lady. I'm not signing anything yet. You haven't delivered it where I want it. Boss. Ah, but we have now. Please read the section I've highlighted. Rich Lady reads it. Oh, well, that changes things. Through the front doors will be fine. Boss. Sorry, please read the second highlighted section. She reads that part. But I've changed my mind. Boss. Sorry. As you can see, it says that deliveries must be made the safest way possible without risking injury to us. And if we still disagree after 3 attempts at making delivery, the customer takes responsibility for completing the delivery from the front of the premises. We asked you 4 times, so, as you requested, I'm delivering per the terms of the delivery contract that you signed. She goes red. But how am I supposed to get this upstairs? Boss, I'm afraid that's no longer my problem, ma'am. Please sign the delivery docket so we can get out of your hair. I took that as my cue to buzz off, pack up the wraps and straps, and prep the truck for departure. We managed to hold in our laughter until the end of the driveway. Am I the jerk for not letting an elderly woman have my son's seat on the bus? Alright, so my son, who's 17, has weekly therapy appointments that I take him to. Unfortunately, my husband let our daughter borrow his car and then had an emergency at work, so he had to use my car, so my son and I had to take the bus. It wasn't ideal, but I'd rather the bus than miss an appointment. While it isn't my place to share why he goes to therapy, I will say that he will often forget to eat. I usually make sure he's fed, but due to the mess in the morning, it slipped my mind. The bus wasn't too crowded, but all the seats were taken. My son wasn't doing too well, and I could tell he was feeling dizzy from hunger plus the bus. So the second someone got off their seat, I set him down. I then tried to find a chocolate bar I had in my bag. While this is happening, I noticed an elderly woman and her adult daughter standing beside us. I didn't pay much attention until the daughter tapped me on the shoulder. She asked if my son could move so that her elderly mother could have a seat. I felt really bad, I really did, but my son was not doing great and standing would make it harder. I had found the chocolate and he was eating it slowly, but if he stood up right then, I can assure you that he would have fainted. I apologized to her and explained that my son wasn't feeling well. She rolled her eyes at me and said that she saw him standing earlier and that he's a young, healthy teenager and he'll be fine. I apologized once again and told her that he wasn't feeling well and that if he was, then he himself would have offered her a seat. The daughter told me to look at her mother, and I admit, the poor woman looked really tired, but I couldn't. My son had started to lean against me, so I told the woman one last time that I was sorry and to ask someone else. I then heard them both whispering and calling me an entitled jerk. And when we got off the bus, a woman that got off with us said that a teenager can handle standing more than an elderly woman can, and that she hopes someone treats me like that when I'm her age. My son was so out of it, I don't think he even noticed or cared, but I can't get this off of my mind. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You handled it the same way I would have, politely explaining that your son wasn't feeling well and needed to sit down. I'm sure there were many other people they could have asked, and many other people that could have offered, so I'm not sure why they felt the need to pick on you and your son. Not the jerk. Having an invisible illness is difficult for just this very reason. I too get these crashes on occasion, and there's no choice to it. If I don't sit down and get something in me, a Gatorade, if nothing else, I will pass out. I've been this way all my life, thin and chunky, and yes, have been to billions of doctors over it. Slight exaggeration. 99% of the time I manage it well, but sometimes forget to eat or think it's been a lot less time since last eating than it has been. Am I the jerk for telling a guy to move his crying baby out of a quiet enclosure at the zoo? I, 19 male, visited the zoo today with my family and we were checking out the koalas, who I was especially excited to see. You may not know this, but koalas apparently need over 18 hours of sleep a day to function, or else they can get quite unhealthy quite quickly. And so any exhibit of them at the zoo will often come with an expectation that you maintain a certain level of silence while observing them. This zoo today was no exception. You are made to go through 2 gates, both of which have signage saying, "Please be quiet, keep the noise down, silence please," etc. And then the doors to the koala house itself has another sign, "Please keep noise levels to a minimum." With all those reminders, I figured people would get the memo. But as soon as we entered the enclosure, which was a small room indoors with a glass window looking into the koala pen, I spotted a couple in their early 30s with 2 kids and a baby. I somewhat apprehensively tried to observe the koalas. They were so cute, and my little sister was happy to see them. But then, like clockwork, the baby starts crying. Hardly the baby's fault. It's a baby. They cry. So I gave the dad of the family the benefit of the doubt, thinking he'd either take the baby out or calm her down. A few moments pass, the baby gets more annoyed and cries louder. The koalas scurry away, hiding in their cubby holes, and others wake up from their sleeping. I give the dad the look. I feel like everyone knows the look. We've either had someone give it to us or given it to someone else. I'm not sure I'd ever been at this end of it, but I definitely received some looks at times. Baby continues to cry. I, being a socially awkward autistic teenager, grapple with the idea that the dad might have missed my giving him the look, so I do the classic. I shake my head and I give a little sigh. No change. I throw another look his way, this time a little more firm, but I feel like I overdid it. My eyes are a little too intense perhaps, because suddenly the dad is saying, in the voice of someone who's just gotten a lecture, "Well, all right, mate, it's just a baby." To which I reply with a gesture towards the sign, "Silence, please." "But it's a baby," he says. "Well, don't bring a baby in here," I reply in a whisper. My parents jump on me, thinking I'm out of line, and the couple and their kids give me the meanest of looks and leave the enclosure, leaving me feeling very tense. What do we think? I feel like this is a very common struggle in a public place where there aren't always members of staff to enforce the rules. We want to pick our battles, of course, but this family bringing their baby in spoiled my little sister's magical moment of seeing a koala for the first time. Surely they should have seen the signs and thought, probably best not to bring little Charlie in. Or, if they really wanted to see the koalas, the dad could have stayed outside with the baby and the mom and the kids could have gone in. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. They obviously were able to read the signs and they just thought that it didn't apply to them. I think you did a great job. It was mostly nonverbal and dude finally got the hint, but still tried to make excuses. It's a baby. Well, yes, but baby doesn't know when and where is proper to be noisy because it's a baby. Therefore, be a parent and also be mindful of other creatures, humans or not. So you did have to let him know that the signs are there for a reason, and you even whisper yelled, which showed that you were trying to keep quiet out of respect. Librarians don't put up with that in their domain. Koalas shouldn't have to either. But they can't speak, so they need an advocate. You are a great koala advocate. Great job, OP, and you can tell your parents I said so. I'm a mom of 2, grandmother of 3, and my kids would never have kept a crying baby in a quiet place because I taught them manners, and I also took my crying babies out of church, a wedding, and a theater. Not an infant, a 5-year-old who insisted he was old enough to go to the movies even though he was really sensitive to noise. I told him he wouldn't like it, and he was feeling really left out because his friends went to the movies. So yeah, too loud. Not a scary movie, but the noise was too much and he got scared, so he cried and we left. Because I knew that I was responsible for my little one's noise in public. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.